Now, for anyone on here who might not know, I'm sure all of you know, Lori Harvey and Michael B. Jordan have now officially come out and made their relationship official. Now, everybody's been seeing this. People have been like posting this like it's someone they know. I've been seeing everybody been posting it in a story. I'm like, why is everybody so hype about this? And let me stop playing. I totally get it. Lori Harvey is she's a beautiful young girl. Steve Harvey's daughter, his stepdaughter. You know, she seems to have a bright personality. I've heard she's likable. She just seems like that girl that people like, even if they don't know her, which is a good thing. I think we need more of that because we have too much of people not liking people that they don't know. And then, of course, we have Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, of course, is an A-list African American actor. He's young. He's been available, and the ladies have been wondering. You know, I've seen many of women, especially when he played Killmonger. They was like, Killmonger. Like, I heard a few people cry when he died in Black Panther. That's when you know some people are attracted to a man, when he's the villain and they cry when he dies. So, why are we talking about Lori Harvey and her dating Michael B. Jordan? So there's a few things that I want to say about this. First off, let me put this precaution out there that I think Lori Harvey's dope. I don't have anything like bad to say about her character, personality. I don't think Lori Harvey's a hoe. Let me get that out there because that's the narrative people keep pushing, and I also think that's what people think that. I don't want anyone to like misconstrue what I'm about to say, but there's something for us to look at with the Lori Harvey situation. So, Lori Harvey, her dating life, when people became aware of it, was about 2 years ago. She was actually engaged to a soccer player. And then shortly after the soccer player, like before people even knew that their engagement was off, she was dating Diddy, or excuse me, she was dating Diddy's son. And then that was Diddy. It became Diddy. And then it went from Diddy to Trey Songz. And then it went from Trey Songz to Future. And then from Future to now Michael B. Jordan, all within the span of like a couple years. Now, of course, we can speak on, you know, the importance of, you know, healing and processing in between relationships. But that's all kind of theoretical because you would have to know how close she got to each of these men individually. You'd have to know how emotionally involved they were, how much she cared about them. You know, and honestly, there's not really a rule as to how long you need to be single before you move on to another person. People try to throw out arbitrary months and weeks or years, but again, it's all arbitrary. I know a girl personally who was dating one guy, the only guy she dated for 8.5 years. And the reason why they were together so long was because I want to clear this up. He wasn't leading her on. They started dating when they were in high school, and they went to college all the way till he had his master's and she was working on her master's. And he proposed to her. They were engaged. Engagement got called off. I might have mentioned this story before. Engagement got called off. Within 9 months, she was married to another man. Y'all hear that? She was with one dude for 8.5 years. A beautiful, godly relationship, all that good stuff. Relationship ends. Engagement ends. Within 9 months, she's married. Not in 9 months she's dating. Not in 9 months she's engaged. In 9 months she's married to a whole nother man. So I don't, and they've been married now for about 3 or 4 years. They have a beautiful, beautiful baby girl that they just, beautiful baby girl, beautiful, beautiful eyes, all of that. I know her husband. I know both of these people. Her husband's cool peoples, all of that. I know the guy that her engagement got called off with. He used to be one of my best friends. Really great, stellar guy. God blessed him. He has a wonderful woman now. Blah, 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 blah. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Lori Harvey, Michael B. Jordan. So there's not really a rule as to when people can move on and what guy can do in a particular time frame. But of course, that is something to consider. But what I do want to talk about and discuss is women's celebration of Lori Harvey jumping man to man to man to man. And there's a deeper reason, there's a deeper fear that I have as to why we're talking about this. So one, we want to talk about just looking at the surface, is seeing, all of the jokes and the memes, and I love memes, they're funny, but it's like, okay, after the memes are done, like we really have to pull back and be like, yo, like, is this how we really think about this? Or, everyone's joking and saying like, oh my gosh, she's really had all of the men that I want. And she's had this guy and this guy and that guy. And of course, historically, that's something no one would have praised before, was a woman publicly jumping from guy to guy to guy. Whereas now she's like being celebrated and cheered on as like the champion. Like, oh my gosh, she's getting to date all the guys and she's getting out the relationships, and it looks like she's not heartbroken. She's living her best life, and it's being celebrated and applauded and praised. And seeing people make jokes about saying, oh, she's got all the infinity stones. And again, the jokes are very funny, but there's something disturbing to me. It's disturbing seeing people compare Lori Harvey and Michael B. Jordan to Sierra and Russell Wilson. I've been seeing a lot of people doing that. They're saying, oh my gosh, she's got a Russell Wilson. First off, Michael B. Jordan is not Russell Wilson. Let's get that very clear. I don't know Michael B. Jordan. He seems like an upstanding gentleman, but Michael B. Jordan is not a Russell Wilson. We need to make a clear distinction between a man who seems like a good man and a godly man. Those are two totally different things. But beyond that, we also have to keep in mind, none of us know anything about Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan, and again, I believe he's a great guy, but we have to be careful because we have to realize the reason why Michael B. Jordan seems to be better than Future is merely because both of them are in two different fields and they get paid for being two different things. Future gets paid for being this rapper that lives this lavish lifestyle and sleeps with all of these women. It's a part of his brand. It's his lifestyle, but it's a lifestyle brand. Michael B. Jordan's brand, and he has publicists, he has people that have created a brand around who he is and an image he has to uphold, is to be this charming, sweet, deep black man who's also a sex symbol, but we don't really see who he's having sex with and what he's doing. So we don't know who this man is. So we need to be very cautious before we jump the gun and try to compare him to a Russell Wilson, and we know a good bit about Russell Wilson. And same thing, Russell Wilson probably has some people that are working a brand around him and has a certain image he upholds. But again, that's a lifestyle brand. That is legitimately who Russell Wilson is to a degree. There are things behind the scenes we don't know that happens with him and Sierra. We want to be cautious with that. But nevertheless, him and Michael B. Jordan are not the same person. So that's one thing I want to just kind of wipe off the table right there. And again, I think Michael B. is dope. I want to say that. But what's really crazy to me is seeing people, not just women, because there are some men doing this too, especially if we're talking about men who are, LGBTQ or might identify as women, seeing people celebrate, cheer on Lori Harvey jumping man to man to man, like celebrating a woman seemingly looking like a player. And by player, we know she's not dating multiple men at once, but just kind of moving on, breaking hearts, as some people think she's doing. She might or might not be doing that, but she's moving from man to man. And that's not cool. That's one thing I want to say. Just a simple part. That in and of itself is not cool. And I understand why that seems to be something we should praise. And it is because of the double standards that we've seen oftentimes in society, where many men, not all men, but many men have been praised for living this playboy lifestyle. They've been celebrated, praised, looked at like they're cool. Oh man, you're moving woman to woman to woman. You're just moving around. You're a Hugh Hefner. And so these are men who clearly we know these men have low standards for the way they see themselves and low standards for the way that they see women as being meat, as being something for their pleasure, and not being made in the image of God, not being daughters of God, not being God's prize creation. And unfortunately, what's happened is that in the name of equality, the narrative has been getting pushed for women to also be able to be players. Like, oh, we should be able to do what we want to do too. We want to go ahead and do what we want to do too. Like, men are able to do it. Why can't we do it? And unfortunately, I've talked about this before. The fear, the terror of lowering your standards in the name of equality, because, oh, that person's standards are down here and they get praised for being down there, and I got to be up here in order to receive praise. I want to be down there too and still get praise. We should never, none of us should ever want to lower our standards and look at that as equality. Look at that as if it's something worth celebrating. And unfortunately, that is something that we are seeing with the Lori Harvey. That's a piece of what we're seeing. Now, again, this goes deeper. It goes deeper than this. All right. So recently, and this is something y'all can look up. I'm going to put the link when we post the YouTube clip of this. We're going to put the link in the description. But recently, there's a woman by the name of Sue Ellen Browder. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all have actually seen this. There's a woman by the name of Sue Ellen Browder. She was a longtime writer for the Cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan, for anybody who doesn't know, was a super popular women's magazine. And it was one of the most popular women's magazines. And at the time, this is when like magazines were like the social media of its day. And with the Cosmopolitan, Sue Ellen Browder, so she just recently like gave her life to the Lord. I think she became a Catholic, but she gave her life to God. She's repented of her lifestyle. So now recently she's come out to confess some of the horrible things she took part in, and her fears as to how it's affected women, especially American women. And so what Sue Ellen Browder ended up speaking out about with being a writer of the Cosmos, she spoke about how the majority of the content in the Cosmo was completely made up. Completely made up. Now, I know this seems like, it's like, what does it have to do with Lori Harvey? What does it have to do with the whole situation? Just follow me for a second. So she was speaking about how, man, the majority of the content was made up, and a good portion of the content, the things she had to write, was they would create these stories. And this is back, we're talking back in like the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. She would create these stories, and the other writers in the Cosmopolitan did this as well, where they created stories of women who were living their best life. They didn't call it that at the time, but it was women who were hopping man to man to man, women sleeping with married men, women sleeping around, women, all of this. And one of the narratives that they kept pushing in the Cosmopolitan, so women, now mind you, the Cosmopolitan was the #1 women's magazine for over a decade. Literally taught a whole generation of women, what it was to be a cool woman. They gave these fictitious stories of women not seeking marriage, of women being single as long as they want to be, getting their degrees, doing all of these like things to become successful. And then at some point, if you want to get married or get a man, then you can go out and get a man, maybe sometime in your late 30s, early 40s, whatever. Once you're ready, once you've lived your best life, you slept around, you've done all these different things, then you can settle down. And this was a narrative that they were pushing. But again, these were all made up stories. This is what the woman spoke out about. But she is heartbroken because she knows the effects that the Cosmopolitan has had on at least 2 generations of women in America. And these were all made up stories. Whereas she stayed married to the same man for 40 years. Her boss, who trained her in that, was married to the same man for 50 years. They were faithful. All the women they worked with were faithful. They never would ever dare cheat on their husbands. They just knew that these were juicy stories they were creating, that they could sell more magazines and sell merchandise. But they did not consider the implications of what it was doing to the minds of their female audience and readers. So what she's saying that she realized is that around the time of the Cosmopolitan, and there are other factors at play as well, but one of the things that's happened is that, one, she noticed like generations of women were being taught like, oh girl, don't worry about no man, get all of your degrees, get all your this, all your that, live your best life, have fun, and then once you're ready to settle down at some point, then you go ahead and settle down. we know many men have been taught things like this as well. But I'm actually going to save that for another segment when I'm going to address some of the things that men have been taught. And so what's happened is that the trickle down, and this has hurt the Black community more than it's hurt anyone else. It's hurt Black women more than it's hurt anyone else. The trickle down has been that women get married less often now. One, women are getting married later, but women are also getting married less often now. But really what I want to speak about is how this has affected Black women. And so it's affected Black women in that right now, statistically speaking, statistics are saying that 77% of Black women are not getting married, are not gonna be married. Not like they're not getting married right now, like they're gonna go all their life not being married. So that's roughly 8 out of 10. Put 10 Black women in a room. Statistics are saying right now, 8 out of 10 of those women will go their lives never being married. Now, mind you, this is the complete opposite of what it was in the 60s. In the 60s, 8 out of 10 Black women were actually getting married. But before the height of the Cosmopolitan and before the height of, welfare and the Black man being taken out the household, all these other things, 8 out of 10 Black women were getting married.